All right, it's Reuse Unchained here. I got to be honest. So I watched the first half of the Timberwolves game, and then my wife and I put on a great scary movie, by the way, on Netflix, which we talked. It's called Ma. It's about this creepy gal
Yeah, I
who
think I saw bits and pieces of that one. Yeah, Ma's got an axe, doesn't she?
she has a lot of weapons. Yeah, she does a lot of damage. She
So
sews someone's mouth shut at one point. It's great.
You like watching horror movies on Halloween
Oh
season?
God! From October 1st through like the end of November, I watch 100 horror movies.
I don't like the modern horror movies. I like the old,
Me too.
Funky
early 80s, 70s,
55-minute ones in the late 50s, black and white, Black Lagoon. And they got these guys coming out of a pond.
Yes.
It's about the Ed Wood ones. I love the Ed Wood ones because they're so forced. And those are the ones I grew up on as a kid. You'd go to a double feature at the Folda Theater for two 50-minute horror movies, and they were the hokiest things ever. And we go,
Yeah, I got a full list of early 80s like obscure slasher movies I can give you. But the best horror movie last night was the third and fourth quarter of the Timberwolves Hawks game. That's where I was going with it.
Now that's Rebecca Brunson that's with Marty, right? Is that Rebecca Brunson?
And Kevin Lynch.
Rebecca Brunson hit it 100% after the game. They played no defense all night. They just, in the first half, they made all their shots. So they looked good, but they never guarded anybody the entire game. And in the second half, when they started missing shots, they got blown out. But I heard the Atlanta guys for a couple of minutes. I got the Atlanta review of the announcers, and they said, we've seen a lot of big blowing leads in the modern NFL and the modern NBA the last few years, but I've never seen one they said we've never seen one go in two different directions so rapidly as this one. It was at one point it was a 40-some point swing, right?
It was a 60-20 run at one point.
60-20. Oh my God!
And then there was like 42-12 was one of the runs. It was embarrassing.
It was awful. They didn't guard anybody. You know who's really lost trying to play with Gobert and play with this Cat is lost. They gotta go back to what they were doing with him previously. He's out there running around on the wing, trying to figure out who he's supposed to guard, trying to get into the flow. They're wasting him. It's he and Gobert can't be on the floor at the same time. Just have Nas can play with him, Anderson can play with him. Obviously, Cat and him can't play together. They do, neither of them are passers, so it's they cannot play together. And so you got $75 million invested in two guys who should be on the field. Gobert should be playing 20 minutes, not more than that, but it's a mess. It's a mess, and it was awful. The first quarter, I watched quite a bit of the first quarter, even though the World Series was going on. It was unbelievable. Nobody on either team could miss a shot. It was incredible.
Jaden McDaniels comes out after the calf injury, and he's just knocking down threes. He's everywhere. Yeah.
And as soon as Nas hits the floor, he makes 2 threes, and he's throwing in threes. Everybody was throwing in threes, and then they ended up with 12 points in the third quarter, right? 12.
Dude,
12. Unbelievable. What a loss.
Cat had what, like 6 points in the entire second half, if that?
Yeah, I know. He didn't have forever. He didn't have 6 touches.
And then Anthony Edwards shouldn't. Statistically wound up having a good game, and he's my guy. But you can't get to the free throw line once in a while. When you're not knocking down shots, everything's discombobulated. That's what people want to compare him to Dwayne Wade, right? He's the next Dwayne Wade. Well, Dwayne Wade would prevent runs by just getting to the line 10 times on average in a night for a couple of years.
Yes, and Ant is not his best thing. He does is get to the basket, use that left hand, and he doesn't do that anymore. He's out there. He thinks he's a jump shooter, and the first quarter and a half convinced him that he was, because he was making everything for a minute, but. I don't know. They've got it's hard to say it was a historic loss because they've had so many. But for one of their good teams, which is this allegedly is, this is one of the worst losses ever. It's impossible. It was. I mean, they were strutting off the court 79-60, and I go back and watch a couple innings of the World Series, and I come back and they're 12 behind. What happened? It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's what's amazing is, and I will here's a tease for you on our Flagrant Howls podcast later today. I will have a pie chart of blame for the Wolves blowing 20-point leads.
Right. Okay.
And spoiler alert, it's not just this collection from the last couple of years. This is an epidemic for this franchise that goes back to 10 years ago. Even the Kevin Love, Ricky Rubio, Nikola Pekovic teams. There's something weird about this franchise. I don't know if it's coincidental, but they get a big lead and they stop playing basketball the way that they know how for multiple rosters, multiple coaches. I don't know, man.
It's funny. It was, 79-60, I'm watching the World Series, and I look at the cell phone like 20 minutes later, and they're 9 ahead, and I said, they're going to lose.
Yeah.
They're going to lose.
Yep.
They're 100% they're going to lose, you know?
I did the same thing. It was 12 for me. I was like, oh, it's down to 12 already? This is weird. I'm going to keep watching this horror movie for a little while and see where this goes.
It was a disaster unfolding too. Like it literally looked like a loss in slow-mo because of how it was unfolding, and you could see it just going and going. The best part was at the start of the game, the first half, people on Twitter were bitching about the fact that the Bally Sports app didn't work last night. And so all of these people are like, way to go, Bally. I can't watch this game. The Timberwolves are up by 21, blah. By the fourth quarter, they're all like, thank God this thing didn't work. I didn't have to watch that crap.
What? So they're the people watching streaming couldn't see it?
Correct. There was a huge outage with the account on the backside, so people couldn't log in, and it was a problem like 2 hours before tip off. Like, it wasn't just tip off; it started. It was they put out a thing saying, "Hey, we're aware of these issues." People couldn't log in. I was able to get it on my phone and put it on the TV, but I accidentally closed out the app at halftime. But maybe that wasn't an accident. 'Cause it ended up actually working out.
So how does that happen? How does that happen?
Well, it happens because the NBA, being a $15 billion entity, has decided to let all of these local teams form their own partnerships with companies like Bally's Bally's is not a tech company. So they're just building a rickety app for millions of people to watch games on, and it breaks like every week and a half.
Oh, really? Okay. So it's Bally doesn't have any, they're bankrupt, so they're not spending any money to have good technology then, kind of?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like if you're the NBA, I know that MLS took a lot of heat for they're putting all their games on one platform behind a paywall, and people. I think if you're the MLS, you're trying to you should put your games out for free more often. But if you're the NBA, doesn't that sound appealing? Hey, everyone in the world, all of our games are just on this app. They're on the Amazon Prime app. They're on the Apple TV app or whatever it is. And then run some select games. This is just like 25 years ago. And then run some select games on free TV. Pick 5 of them or 8 of them or something.
And I will say that soccer thing has worked perfectly for me. My viewing time is the same as it was previously.
Right.
Hasn't changed one bit, has it?
No, it hasn't. I've watched all of it. I'm still one of my number one complaints on modern ESPN though, is when they start telling me about what happened between Dortmund and Bayern. That's Europe. Forget about it.
Bundesliga, you don't want those highlights?
Bundesliga is very popular, Pat. I don't know what
it should be in Germany, not in my house. Anyway, that was just a horrible loss. It was so bad, Finch didn't even rip his team. Did you see that? Like after the opener, we got sticky. This game, he said, well, I don't think we ever got all screwed up. They just didn't miss any shots. Is what he said. But when you don't guard you, that Atlanta team, by the way, how about those back-to-back games? They beat the Bucks bloody, right? In Milwaukee the night before, right? Wasn't it the night before?
It was a back-to-back. Yep.
Yeah, night before, and then they came and it looked like they were going to get run out, and they won easy. It can't be top 10 loss all time. That's a stretch, but it's a top 20. And when you've had
it's a top 20, yeah.
When you've had thousands of them, that's a pretty good
the playoff loss against Memphis was at the game 3 where they were up by 26 points. I know that was a playoff game, and Memphis is really good, but that was a Mount Rushmore Wolves loss.
What about the Tibbs one against the Bulls, up like 11 with 2 minutes to go in like 2016? That's also was a
another
brutal one.
And by the way, my guy Tibbs has had about 5 like this with the Knicks. They're going to get him fired. They have blown some ungodly big leads to come out and play great. And so I don't know. It's just I wonder if I don't think they're that good. I think they're another plan. I think they're a playing team again. I think they're a playing team.
What's crazy is they were one of the best teams in the NBA last year against teams that are above 500. They were like 25 and 21 against, but then they were the worst team in the NBA among the playoff teams by quite a margin. I'm pretty sure against below 500, and that was a big talking point. Media day. I was there for 3 hours, and every other person that came up talked about. We just got to be more mature, just handle these situations against bad teams, big leads. We can't fall asleep. And boom, right away, they have maybe their most embarrassing one of the Chris Finch era.
But you got to give them credit. They lost the first one because they didn't play any offense, couldn't make a shot, and they lost this one because they didn't play any defense. You got to give them credit. They're versatile.
They're balanced.
They're
very balanced.
Their arse kicked either way. It doesn't. They're talented.
It's been a tough week too. So we start with the QB's Achilles blowing out. The Wild is playing awful, and now the Wolves just suffered. This is a very Minnesota sports start to a week. It feels like.
That's right. I happen to be listening to Molesky's a hockey expert, right?
Tennessee,
yeah.
Big time.
Nicoletta, your guy.
I heard him yesterday afternoon savaging the Wild defense. He says they got 2 players. They got 2 guys who can play. Faber and
Brodeen.
And Brodeen are the only 2 defensemen they got. They never said they can't
careful.
move
You might get a phone call. Be too negative now. You don't want to get a phone call from the Wild if they're being negative.
Yeah. Well. Anyhow, it was an awful loss.
Be careful.
Unbelievable. You're right. Yeah. The Wild have they checked in with? Do they do that once in a while?
I heard one time. This is like probably 8 years ago.
Oh, really?
That the Wild once called the producers of Fox Sports North at the time during a game and told them stop putting up the shots on goal because the discrepancy was like 15-2. They take their partnerships very seriously at the Wild.
You're our partners. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Before that became a graphic that you can't take away when they occasionally use.
Okay.
And I also heard that Kurtz and Reed were like, screw that, and just kept talking about what the shots on goal were. They didn't care.
Yeah, well, that's right. KFAN is the home of the Wild and the Wolves now, because the Wolves are going to have like at least 5-6 on-air games. So I think with the new setup now, how can you be so prideless as a NBA franchise that you're willing to take third billing with the Gopher basketball team having second billing? How can anybody have billing behind? I would rather have the games that we have on Score North, St. Thomas men's basketball games, than the Gopher men's basketball games. Look at that non-conference schedule, and they have priority over you. What in God's name is wrong with you people? Show some pride. But then I guess when you play like you did last night, you shouldn't have any pride.
By the way, starting on Monday, you can find St. Thomas men's basketball on 1500 ESPN
Who we
Radio.
got?
That's right.
Who we got?
I think is it Cal? I'm pretty sure they're out west. I think they're playing. I want to say Cal.
They have a better non-conference schedule than the Gophers, I can guarantee you. Gutless Gophers. Oh, man. You know, Gophers, though, the Gophers have their exhibition opener against McAllister. And they don't really do point spreads on that, but the Gophers are 4-point favorites over McAllister, I heard. So
are you serious?
4-point
favorites.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
All right. Kirk Cousins, what do you think? They're going to roll with what they got? Is that the way it looks?
Well, we crowdsourced a list of quarterbacks that I think is up to about 42.
Yes, right.
Jeff George wants to throw his hat in the ring probably. So yeah, Adam Schefter went on Monday Night Football last night, and he basically said, and this also could have been the Vikings, trying to leverage, the market or whatever, but they said the Vikings are very much leaning toward just using the guys they have in house, and they're very much leaning toward not trading Danielle Hunter. So we'll see what happens in the next few hours.
Why would they trade Hunter? I mean,
they probably won't.
No, I don't think they would. But it's a whole narrative compiled by guys just throwing stuff at the wall on Goofy and ESPN.
What, a Danielle Hunter trade?
Yeah, I know.
No, not at 4-4 they aren't trading him. But if they were still, they were 1-4 at one point.
Sure. Yeah.
But they've kind of played their way out of that conversation at this point.
So they're well beyond. They can't tank. They can't tank enough to get in the top 3 or 4. So who would we have the hots for here as a quarterback? If
whoever the 5th guy is, probably where they're going to be drafting.
Yeah. And by the way, the guy that we were talking up like 2 days before the draft, the secret guy that they really liked, Will Levis.
Yeah.
He came in and lit it up on his first start on Sunday. So maybe they were right, but they didn't follow their. I
guess the head coach didn't like him.
Really?
Okay.
O'Connell didn't like him. Yeah.
All right. Well,
do you know who we really miss, Patrick? We miss Chris Thomason right now.
Oh, God, yes.
Because he would be calling every out-of-work quarterback. He would call Jeff George. He would try to call Favre. I mean, the Pioneer Press right now would be a treasure trove of just names and quotes. Brett Favre, could I still play? Well,
plus, they would have been screaming. Well. They would have been screaming yesterday at O'Connell's press conference, just 2 more questions, 2 more questions. He would have asked him 37 questions about different guys. He would have driven O'Connell nuts. The usually calm O'Connell would have been rattled.
We would have Colt McCoy quotes, though, I guarantee you that. He would have found a number, a cell phone for Colt, and gotten Colt's quote. I'd love to come up there and help out Kevin. Where
did Colt play that they were so rotten that his career record is 11-25, which I heard yesterday?
Everywhere. Early in his career, he was Washington. He started 15 games for Washington the first two.
When O'Connell was there.
When
O'Connell was there, right?
Browns.
Part of the time
Browns was the majority of his starts, but then he was with Washington. That's where him and O'Connell have a connection, right?
Yeah, but what makes us think he likes him? You saw him lose all those games. They played. No, they were together.
They worked him out 3 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So
he's 37, and which means he's even older than Jaron Hall. So.
Yeah. Yes.
The geriatric Jaron Hall.
He's 26 with a grown family and everything.
He's 3.5 years older than than C.J. Stroud.
Yeah.
He's 7 months older than Jordan Love.
His kids in college.
He's a year older than Justin Fields. So let's see. If not,
his kid's going to graduate from college next week.
Let's see what you got here, kid.
His kid took over for him at BYU, actually.
On a mission.
Those Mormon guys that they, I think, I can say this about the Mormons. I was at Salt Lake City, and the bus service was fantastic. It was the most on time. If they said the bus was going to be there at 7:08, it came around the corner at 7:05. They're very efficient, but I would have a hard time with having to do the 2-year mission if I was, I don't want to do that. Go somewhere and not get paid, and Fiji Islands maybe, but not. Some other place.
Royce is a Mormon. I can see it now.
Yeah.
This is a new reality show. Yeah, Royce the Mormon. Let's make it happen.
Right.
Oh, my gosh. So, well, we'll see what happens at the trade deadline here, and we'll see if the Wolves can dust themselves off.
If it's not quarterback, is there anything they're looking for? By the way, the Lions they made a mess out of it for a little while and let the Raiders hang in there. But you know who's terrible? Garoppolo.
Oh,
he can't make a decision. He just stands there and lets them hit him.
He's so bad.
You know, his clock is all gone. It's okay. You've been in the pocket for 4 seconds. You better throw it somewhere. And about a second later, he gets the hell knocked out of him. He's terrible.
Yeah.
So
it's a tough
we don't want him. There. We don't want Garoppolo.
No, we don't. Let's take him off. No, we're down to 41 names on the list now. We're taking Jimmy G off the list.
All right,
Pat.
Jeff.
We'll talk to you later this week here. Reuse Unchained, presented by our friends at Summit Orthopedics. If you're dealing with any type of pain, which is very fitting this week, unfortunately, ankles, feet, back, you name it, Achilles, no referrals are needed. They offer same-day appointments at Summit Orthopedics. And if you're really hurting, they also offer walk-in orthopedic urgent care starting at 8 a.m. 7 days a week. You can learn more at summitortho.com, summitortho.com.